As 1979 began, the pace of change was accelerating in the race to the future.
These are the first television pictures in the world of the new Brabham BT-48. From the wingless tail to the tip of its carbon fibre nose, this 200-mile-an-hour projectile is reckoned to be the most expensive Grand Prix car ever built, a superb example of the designer's art.
Sterling Moss, you last raced a Formula One car in 1962, and now we're 17 years on. It's time the new BT-48. What are your views?
I think that one is becoming a little bit too much of the designer who's mattering. How much am I left to be able to contribute to this fantastic projectile?
The human factor in racing was evolving. What mattered most was the motivation to learn faster than the competition. The same was true for me. I lived my childhood fantasy of being a racing magazine editor. But my true dream was to become a racer. Now I would find out if I had the time, talent, and the commitment to do both.
You know that you don't like to do interviews?
No, it's a question of, when I work 12 hours a day, I only can work 12 hours a day. And I just have to say, listen, there's no way I can do, because I'm limited by my own body. To work on the car is the best, because there I'm alone with my car.
The Formula One drivers in general have become less important this winter. Teams have paid more attention to designers and drawing boards. For James Hunt, it's a swan song season. After 6 years of Formula One, he's announced his intentions to retire at the end of 1979. Despite the introduction of several new cars, many people still believe that Lotus will be the car to beat.
My hero, Mario Andretti, was now America's reigning Formula One world champion, and he inspired me to dream big.
As soon as you feel that you've pretty much conquered that particular class, obviously you got to go for something more demanding. Your end goals should always be very ambitious ones.
But the reality was that I hadn't raced a Formula Ford since November 1977 in Mexico City. I was 24 years old with only 5 race starts in 4 years, so I was running out of time. It was now or never. The truth is, I had an unfair advantage as the editor of SportsCar magazine. It gave me the opportunity to test drive great racing cars with coaching from an experienced racer named Richard Shirey. But I knew that I learned best by trying to catch and pass whatever was ahead of me. So it was when I became the editor driving SportsCar magazine. My direct competition was my talented friend Pete Lyons, who edited Formula magazine, which I'd helped launch 6 years earlier. And both of us were chasing Britain's Autosport magazine. That was the Bible of Formula One.
Bright, glorious sunshine at the San Martin Autodrome in Buenos Aires, Argentina, for the first World Championship Grand Prix of 1979. Nearly every car is new or vastly improved, and there's been a massive change round of the top drivers. John Watson there is this year driving for McLaren, number 11, the Ferrari, this year driven by the South African Jody Scheckter. But the sensation of practice were these two cars, Lafita de Pai in the front rank, in the second row, Reutemann and Jarier. In the third row, Scheckter and Watson. Fourth row, Andretti and Pironi. And the Argentine Grand Prix is on, and into the lead goes Jacques Lafitte, coming up to the left-hander. It's the 3 Frenchmen in the lead with the Ligier, Tyrrell and Trouble. That's John Watson, and off to the left. Bursting through the smoke is Mario Andretti. The red flag is out. They are going to stop the race.
One of the things I feared most was making a mistake that would crash my reputation and stall my momentum.
I guess it's more the feel of the control over the car, over the limit of it, that is the sliding.
How do you know when you push a little more that you're just not going to fall off the edge?
Sometimes you fall off the edge. Yeah.
Now I would learn about falling off the edge. My mom, Val Pfanner, suffered a mental breakdown, and she was transported to a psychiatric facility where the demons of her tragic childhood in Hungary during World War II would finally emerge. I was emotionally derailed and searching for motivation. Thankfully, another familiar immigrant was present everywhere in popular culture to energize my dreams.
If you want to beat the world, there's only one tire to consider.
Goodyear. So I stick with a winner, Valvoline Motor Oil.
Mario Andretti belongs to a very special circle, the Schaefer Circle, because he knew that winning the World Driving Championship meant getting every last bit out of your machine and yourself.
Mario Andretti was focused on making the most of his Formula One World Championship. Now he would skip the Indy 500 for the first time to race in the Monaco Grand Prix, and he committed to running just 2 IndyCar races for Team Penske, while his teammate Rick Mears earned a full-time ride and became the future of Team Penske. At that fateful moment, Roger Penske, Dan Gurney, and fellow team owner Pat Patrick were battling with USAC for control of IndyCar racing with a new organization called CART. This furious war of words played out publicly in the racing press and in the very important pages of the Indianapolis Star newspaper, where a young reporter and former Formula Ford racer named Robin Miller broke the big stories and bruised powerful egos. At around the same time, Dan Gurney had ended his Eagle Formula Ford project, and championship-winning driver David Loring was also my roommate, who was searching for a ride in Formula Atlantic, where he hoped to make the jump to F1, just like his contemporary Gilles Villeneuve had done 2 years before. David's girlfriend, Suzette Catheron, was the art director for SportsCar magazine, and her friendship with Dan Gurney's assistant, Kathy Nealon, would be the key to my future. But the winds of change were sweeping across America and racing.
Everywhere the headlines spell bad news. The worst winter anyone can remember. January has become an unending nightmare.
2,000 miles east, IMSA's racers did battle. When it was over, Southern California-based Interscope Racing's Porsche 935 claimed a dominant victory, 49 laps ahead of second place. But one of the drivers was working on something bigger that would change my life.
Back east, another storm is brewing. It hits New York full force, much harder than the storm just 2 weeks before.
But a different kind of storm was brewing in Daytona.
The white flag is out. 1 lap to go. This is the last lap.
Out of turn 2, Donnie Allison in first. Where will Cale make his move? He comes to the inside. Donnie Allison throws the block. Cale hits him. He slides. Donnie Allison slides. They hit again. They drive into the turn. They're hitting the wall. They're head on the wall. They slide down to the inside. Let's watch those third place cars. They're out of it. Who is going to win it? Petty is out in front at the line. Richard Petty, the great master, has just recorded his 186th career, and there's a fight between Cale Yarborough and Donnie Allison. The tempers overflowing. They're angry. They know they have lost. And what a bitter defeat.
The winter storms had kept millions indoors, and many were watching the first live Daytona 500 on network TV. In that moment, NASCAR took the lead in defining American racing. Just as I took the lead in talking my way into driving new racing cars while masquerading as a magazine editor. The April issue of SportsCar featured a special section previewing the cars of the 1979 VW Super V Series. My mentor Richard Shirey and I got the opportunity to drive 2 of the best, a brand new March 79V and David Brunn's Auto Research. That was the successor to his brilliant ADF Mark II Formula Ford. Both cars were sensational to drive, and my talented friend Jeff Zwart photographed the test from every angle. He also worked his own angle to wrangle his way into the Jim Russell School to learn to drive a racing car, a skill he would later use to fulfill his own dream. But our shared dream to create a magazine to rival the world's best still burned brightly. We now had a key co-conspirator in Steve Nicholas, who returned as a contributor to SportsCar, and in Gordon Kirby, who became our reporter covering the CART IndyCar series. Publisher Paul Ockman was cautiously supportive, just as the competition was raising their game with a name change. We were exploring how to bring our new magazine idea to life. and the chaos of 1979 continued.
100,000 people here to see the 4th US Grand Prix West. It's Gilles Villeneuve in pole position in the Ferrari. Alongside him, Reutemann, then Scheckter, Ferrari, and Depailler. Villeneuve has overshot. He has not stopped at the grid. And Jacques Lafitte, the man who won the first 2 races of the season, is out of his car, and from the skid marks behind, it looks as though the engine has seized up. 20 minutes later, ready for the official start of the race, and here it is. And Jody Scheckter surges out from behind Villeneuve. Scheckter in the Ferrari, Mario Andretti well up towards the Queen Mary hairpin, and Depailler is coming up. And it is Villeneuve, and there is trouble. That's Patrick Tambay in the McLaren, and he's taken off Niki Lauda with him as well.
Gilles Villeneuve again demonstrated his mercurial brilliance, while David Loring, who once substituted for him in Formula Atlantic, saw his Formula One dream die when his relationship imploded with John Paul Sr., his notorious team owner. But that wasn't the only thing that was imploding amid the turbulence of 1979.
The big day of racing from Atlanta International Raceway today on ABC's Wide World of Sports, with the running of 2 125-mile IndyCar events. Also a report on the situation that has shaken the racing world to its very foundations. USAC versus CART, and its implications in regard to racing's premier spectacle, the Indy 500.
Indianapolis Motor Speedway United States Auto Club announced just the other day that certain drivers, certain car owners rather, would not be permitted to enter this year's Indianapolis 500-mile race. Roger Penske, a co-founder of CART and one of the club's 7 directors, is with me.
In 1978, the USAC Board of Directors were represented at our races only by one individual at all of our races, and that was Judd Phillips. And I think this was kind of the thing that broke the camel's back. Basically, we weren't getting communication, and we needed an organization that would be able to help us communicate about rules, about the technical specifications of our cars, about scheduling, purses, etc.
Well, Chris, the situation here, I think, is very bad, because with only 5 short weeks to go to the Indianapolis 500, the most important motor racing event in the calendar year in America, we're going to see it, perhaps, without some of the very best drivers and some of the very best teams. This, I don't believe, motor racing can afford.
Looking down on the Indianapolis Motor Speedway on the day of the great 500-mile automobile race. It started in 1911, and now the crowds here have grown until an estimated 350,000 people are on the premises from across the country, from around the world. Hello, I'm Jim McKay reporting from Indianapolis. Well, the annual exciting feeling is here, and I'm glad of that, because for much of this month we weren't really sure. In fact, when we first came here early in the month, there was nothing but controversy and litigation. For a while they weren't really sure that there would actually be a 500-mile race in 1979.
I was tired of hearing about lawsuits and lawyers. I wanted to get back to racing.
They're racing in Indianapolis, going side by side into the first turn. On the outside, Al Unser started to make a move but didn't. On the inside is Tom Steve, but Unser ducks down and takes the lead.
The most important story in racing was over too soon.
There is Janet Guthrie, the only woman in the race, being pushed out.
Janet, I know you're extremely disappointed, but knowing you, I know you'll be back here next year at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway.
I certainly hope so.
Janet would never race again at Indy.
The leader of the race is still car number 2, Al Unser. 1 lap down, but all the way up into 7th place now is Danny Ungayas, remember, who started all the way back in 27th. He could be a factor before this race is over.
And Al in the pit being checked for an oil leak so that they can fix it.
So the race battle, as the green flag comes out of brother has ceased here. It's youth against age, because it's Bobby Unser, age 45, against his teammate Rick Mears in 2nd place, age 27. Danny Ungayas in the black car going down low and unwrapping himself from Rick Mears, the 2nd place car in the race. Look, he hit the wall. Ungayas.
Danny Ungayas slammed into the wall coming out of turn 4 there. I don't know, there may be something wrong with that car now, because there was flame. He hit the wall solidly.
What a fantastic control job, though. Control that car coming off.
And look at this, he's passing another car.
The Indianapolis 500 for 1979. There is Roger Penske. The celebration has already begun. They know it's all over. There's Penske again. His last winner was the late Mark Donohue. There's Rick, the hand in the air.
Danny Ungayas, what a great move he did all the way through the field. So well done.
There's the winner then unofficially coming into victory lane.
2 years in the Speedway, front row both years, pole this year. Rick, your face is clean. Everybody around you shaking. You're rock steady. What are you thinking of right now?
I don't know what to think, really. It's just, I can't even imagine what this is. I really can't.
The man who won Indy 10 years earlier understood what Rick was experiencing. But now, he was 4,500 miles away, chasing a different dream.
The weather conditions here at Monaco today could hardly be better. Jody Scheckter, the Ferrari team leader, the South African who is tying in the lead for the World Championship with Jacques Lafitte, is there in pole position. First corner is absolutely critical. Last year it was a crash, and this year Scheckter gets away superbly.
Monaco delivered a brutal reality check to 3 world champions.
It's James Hunt out of the race. There's the distinctive figure of James Hunt. So Hunt, the 1976 world champion, is out of the Monaco Grand Prix.
James Hunt's career was over.
And look at that Didier Pironi. That's Pironi climbing up on the back of Lauda's Brabham. And Mario Andretti there is out of the race. Jody Scheckter down to the La Rascasse for the last time. Jody Scheckter is going to win.
A Formula Ford racer was now leading the F1 World Championship. And 4 weeks later, I saw what it took to be a racer.
There's a 120,000 French crowd to see the French Grand Prix. In fact, with the eyes of all France on them, they're the front rank. Jabouille, Renault, Arnoux, Renault, away they go, and through the middle punches Gilles Villeneuve. Mario Andretti is in trouble, into the pits, but it looks as though it is brake trouble, and it's a very unhappy world champion in the cockpit of the Lotus 80, which has not been a good car for him this season. René Arnoux is challenging for second as they come up to Villeroy, but Villeneuve will not give way, and he takes second place, and Villeneuve go. Incredible! Villeneuve stood on everything, locked up his tyres, got the line, and he's back into second position. They're coming into the start of the last lap, and Arnoux does he? And Villeneuve locks up, and Villeneuve has had to go wide, and Arnoux's on the inside as they go round Villeroy. He's got second position, he's through, they bang wheels. He's off, and he's back again. René Arnoux off the circuit and back again, and now Villeneuve's in second position, and this is the last lap. And Villeneuve goes over the corrugations, and he nearly loses the front as they go up to Parabolique on the 80th and last lap. And he's back, he's in second position. Villeneuve is second in the Ferrari.
2 weeks later, veteran racers Richard Shirey and Mike Hull were helping me raise my game as I prepared to race a new Van Diemen RF79 Formula Ford at Riverside International Raceway. Although inexperienced, their insights helped me improve every aspect of my performance, so I was 6th out of 38 cars after the first session. After qualifying, I was 16th and making excuses. Mike Hull had no sympathy, and he told me racing is learning. I got the hint. We discussed how to avoid trouble and move forward, but the field was deep, so my priority was to avoid making mistakes. I raced to 7th place without drama, but I wanted more. And I got more. In early August, I celebrated my 25th birthday at Willow Springs Raceway with my mentor Richard Shirey track testing 6 contemporary Formula Fords. This was the ideal format to improve my driving and for me to understand the performance of the cars my competitors were racing. In this analog era before data acquisition, we measured every aspect of performance manually. And we even had an SCCA tech inspector there to keep everyone honest. Executive editor Lorna Fitz did an amazing job of organizing the complex process and our expanded team. I dreamed of a day like this when I began my racing journey as a Cal Club SCCA racer 4 years earlier. Now another Cal Club racer was living his dream.
Here comes Rick Mears. Only a few hundred feet to go. He could almost coast to the finish. His teammate Bobby Unser right behind him, and Rick Mears has won the Trenton 150. He won the Indianapolis 500 this year, and now he has won here at Trenton.
and he is a marvelous young man from Bakersfield, California, 27 years old.
Rick Mears was on his way to winning the first CART IndyCar championship and becoming a legend. But not all dreams have happy endings. After a decade of decline, Ontario Motor Speedway was in perilous financial condition. It was now obvious that I would outlast the place where my racing journey began. The ugly CART USAC war was only making matters worse, as my hero Mario Andretti made his only start of 1979. But that weekend, my thoughts were with someone who'd helped me start my racing adventure. I was stunned when I learned that Mark Monroe was dead. He was only 24 years old. A few days later, I was at USC Medical Center, where my mom was hospitalized and diagnosed with lung cancer. I was heartbroken. But life and racing went on.
Jody Scheckter ha vinto il 50° Gran Premio d'Italia e ha vinto il campionato del mondo di Formula 1.
Jody Scheckter was now the 1979 Formula One World Champion and an inspiration to me and thousands of other Formula Ford racers with improbable dreams. But dreams never become real without action, so I used everything within my power to make my second and final race of 1979 a success. Team manager Mike Hall was changing how I thought about racing and life. It wasn't just about me. It was about truth and teamwork. I qualified 5th out of 26 cars, and I was fighting for second on the last lap when my ego took control and changed the trajectory of my life. It was time to assess my priorities. Just as one of racing's best assessed his disappointing season with the Brabham Alfa Romeo and the hurried introduction of the new Brabham Ford.
I only finished 2 races this year, so it's all not funny anymore. So it really does get boring. And as long as the heart and the head is there, it is still. But I can feel one day it won't be anymore, and then I will retire overnight.
After practice for tomorrow's Canadian Grand Prix, Niki Lauda, twice a world motor racing champion, announced to an astonished motor racing world that he was retiring.
So, no Niki Lauda in the lineup for the Canadian Grand Prix in Montreal today. In the front row of the grid, Alan Jones, winner of 3 of the last 4 Grand Prix. Alongside him, Gilles Villeneuve in the Ferrari. Away they go, and look at Jody Scheckter onto the grass.
Alan Jones and his Williams FW07 were now leading in the endless race to F1's future, as Team Lotus and Mario Andretti saw their glory and advantage of 1978 swept away by the winds of change. The Autosport America dream was barely alive. I'd lost my focus, productivity, and the faith of my boss as I headed to Laguna Seca in October for the SCCA Trans Am, where Paul Oxman would ask Steve Nicholas to leave Group 44 and return to the company. But the world was about to change overnight.
Good evening. The U.S. Embassy in Tehran has been invaded and occupied by Iranian students. The Americans inside have been taken prisoner, and according to a student spokesman, will be held as hostages until the deposed Shah is returned from the United States, where he's receiving medical treatment for cancer.
I am ordering that we discontinue purchasing of any oil from Iran.
We want to share the emotions Americans are feeling on the gas line.
The line was about 8 blocks long. It was ridiculous. It was unbelievable waiting in line. I can't take it anymore.
The economy was crashing, and so was my life. The November issue of SportsCar was a month late, and the December issue was even further behind. Publisher Paul Oxman was very unhappy with me, for good reason. It was time to face the truth about my poor performance, so I stayed up all night processing what I should do next while working on a painting of the new world champion As a new day dawned, it dawned on me that I was unemployable. So naturally, I decided to start a company. I also accepted the truth that the Autosport America dream was beyond my grasp. I'd fallen off the edge, but it was now time to get back on track, which is exactly what Steve Nicholas needed to do with the December issue of SportsCar that I'd left in a woeful state. It was also not lost on me that Pete Lyons had stayed focused on continuously improving the magazine that I'd left 4 years earlier, while I was going nowhere. Then destiny called when Danny and Gaius approached Suzette to create illustrations and collateral materials for a new project. Interscope Racing had been chosen by Porsche to enter the Indy 500 in 1980. This was the doorway to what came next, so I let go of my racing dream and embraced the power of now. Discussions soon began with the Cal Club region of the SCCA and the Alfa Romeo Owners Club about publishing their magazines. Dan Gurney's assistant, Kathy Nealon, was on our side, and she helped recruit AAR's accountant, Gary Brown, as a partner in our new company. We rented an IBM typewriter in a small office across the parking lot from Interscope Racing. Then our company won the contract to publish Finish Line magazine, and Suzette went to work on the first issue, and I went to work finding more business for our new company and planning what came next, which is what I still do today. And I did in March 1971 when my race to the future began. And I knew I would continue to learn by trying to catch and pass whatever was ahead of me. Finish Line magazine debuted in January 1980. But the Porsche IndyCar project died soon after due to politics. Well, Skip Barber asked me for help in creating a new brand identity. We added Alpha Owner magazine to our growing business. Publisher John Benton closed his magazine amid a global recession. Steve Nicholas and Paul Oxman made their dream a reality with On Track magazine. Danny and Gaius saw his brave Indy dream become a nightmare. My first partner, Mike Pfanner, returned to design books for a new client. And my friend Jeff Zwart supported me in reigniting my dreams, which began 10 years earlier at Ontario Motor Speedway, that was sadly now gone. Then the untimely death of my mother reminded me that all I really have in life is now.
into the wall, coming out of turn 4 there. I don't know, there may be something wrong with that car now because there was flame. He hit the wall solidly.
What a fantastic control job, though, to control that car coming off.
And look at this, he's passing another car.
There's one person that should be president of this country. Daniel Sexton Gurney.